Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and we've gathered here again today to talk about planes, trains, and automobiles. And we are going to jump straight in. Let's go to Lee, since he's got his mouth full. What do you make of this film?
Hold on. You did that on purpose.
What makes you think that?
This is from 1987, starring the late great John Candy and Steve Martin. It's one hell of a road trip, this movie. By the late great John Hughes film as well. It's enjoyable from beginning to end. It's the misadventures of these two guys trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and it's just one disaster after another, and it is funny. I mean, I liked it back then, and I still like it now. It's this. I haven't seen it for good 8 years now. I was good to dust it down and watch it last night. But yeah, it's a very funny film. John Candy is a very underrated. Was a very underrated comedian actor. I mean, the movies he was in were brilliant. This one is one of his best. Uncle Buck also comes to mind. Brilliant movie that as well. But yeah, and the pairing of the two, of Steve Martin and John Candy, brilliant idea. But I enjoyed it, and that's just my opening thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lee. Let's go to Stephen Price. Give a Welsh perspective on this film. From Swansea.
Well, not from Swansea. From California. From California, USA.
You're from California, are you? No.
This film is just totally brilliant. Them two just made me laugh. Like Lee said, it's one disaster after another. And I'll tell you my favourite moments. There's so many of them in it. Oh, my God. If you're feeling down, depressed, just put this movie on. It'll cheer you up. Definitely.
Which happens in Wales, doesn't it, Stephen?
Oh, nothing happens. Nothing happens in Wales anyway. It does. It rains.
Rains. There you go. So something does happen. It rains. But that's actually incorrect because it actually pours, not rains. Let's go to Brian. See what Brian made of this film.
Who, moi? Me?
Yes. The brains of the group. Come on, then.
So I'm the brain.
Thoughts.
I'm the brain of the group. Okay.
Yeah. You have final say on stuff.
All right. So trains, and automobiles.
Thanks for that, Brian. Let's go to Alex and Susan.
Oi! What I thought upon this film is one of the all-time classics within the John Hughes. I mean, John Hughes in itself as a director and as a movie creator is far best directors within history. He made classic movies. This is a classic movie in itself. I absolutely enjoy and love this film. Steve Martin and John Candy, they're phenomenal as a co-stars together. They really are hilarious and just the best team together. I mean, this movie is just absolutely hilarious and enjoyable at the same time. You know what? This is probably one of the best classic comedies of all time. I just love this film. Like Steven said, there's a lot of favorite moments within this film. I mean, I could think of a lot, but we'll save that for later. So this film, I would just say it's a classic, and if anybody hasn't seen it within the world here, or haven't even heard of John Hughes, I would just recommend his movies, this movie, whatever. This is just a good and funny film. I love it.
Wow, I'm impressed. You got all that from the highlights. Wow, that's pretty good going.
I did not watch.
It's good to Alex and Susan
guys
quickly.
always hang that over my head. That was only one time. Go on to the next person, would you?
All right. Let's say that this movie makes me really uncomfortable from start to finish. I feel like at times I feel like John Candy's character, Dell, and at times I feel like the other character, because at times I feel like like my life is spinning out of control, and I've entered a highway, and I'm going the wrong direction, and two trucks are headed my direction, and sometimes I feel like oh my gosh, who have I connected with, who are my friends and whatever. And so I mean it's like that. It's really incredibly uncomfortable comedy. I said that about a long time ago on our podcast about the British Empire. This is the same kind of discomfort where you're like, oh my gosh, really? And Steve, I mean, the whole thrust of the movie is trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and the thought of his children, the thought of his wife, the thought of the feast that's awaiting him draws him on. But the man that he meets on the airplane, actually, as he steals his taxi in New York, you feel really sad for this guy, because it turns out he doesn't have a home anymore, and he's just a wandering around traveling salesman, selling shower curtain holders. And I mean, like that's a tough job. That's a tough road to hoe. And so I mean, it's just like, what are you gonna do? I feel really anxious when I watch this movie. I couldn't sit still. I had to get up and do stuff, because even though I've seen it a million times, I hear it and I know where they are. Like when he's messing with the car seat or whatever, like there's just things that are just, you don't even need to watch it anymore to know exactly what the heck is happening. Alex will tell you about a musical number in it that's like, uh, you know, fast becoming one of his favorite movie moments. And so anyway, like I'll just leave it at that. Here you go.
All right. Well, I'm not exactly sure where you were going with that, Susie. Yeah, I know the mess around. Anyway, again, this is John Hughes as a writer and a producer, and he was very good at that. Not every TV show. He did the official version, TV version of Animal House in '79. He wrote 4 episodes for Delta House. That's what it was called on ABC. And he brought back Uncle Buck, and they had the movie Curly Sue. He did a lot of famous movies in the 80s with the Brat Pack, as they say, and most of them are still actors even today. Yeah, he did some scenes and some dialogue that I didn't like in all of his movies. But at the same point, he was realistic in the characters are defined. they're not as stereotypical as you'd think, especially for an 80s movie. Then,
True.
okay, but I'm not a big fan of the movie. Don't misunderstand me. I actually don't like the movie, but I do like the music, the songs that you hear, not the soundtrack and the incidental. And it is two good actors. I'd rather be watching The Breakfast Club or Weird Science or other movies that he had. But I do like the mess around. I do like one other musical number in there, and the dialogue was good. But remember too that this is also a guy that did the original Home Alone movies and Home Alone 4, which was a TV movie. So you can't always bet 1,000 anyway. But he did a lot of good movies. He did a lot of good movies for the time. Um, like I said, I liked it, but yeah, I wouldn't keep it as one of my favorites. But I mean, it is interesting. It is somewhat realistic, I would think. Sometimes I do wonder what they took out, but according to what I've heard, it's made a lot of money, especially for the time. They always have a scene at the end after the credits, so beat that, Marvel. John Hughes did it first. And yeah, the dialogue's good. Some of the songs are good. It's a road buddy movie. It's a traveling movie. Yeah, it was a little rough with the language. You also, if you know that scene at the car rental place, there was a lot of f bombs. But it's kind of funny how again he did it before it became really big. So in some ways he was ahead of his time. In other ways he wasn't. I don't like how a couple of the actors have criticized him now that he's been gone since 2009. But I mean, considering the era, the time, he did a lot of good work. Not everything, but he did a lot of good work.
Thank you, Alex and Susan. Yeah, I've only seen this film once before, and on rewatching it, I mean, I enjoyed it the first time, and I still enjoy it. But I'm more with Alex. I don't think it's like Brian and Stephen really love this film. I don't love it, but it's still a very good, as Alex says, it's a road trip. What's my Alex? What do you want?
Yep. He also did the
Wait.
yeah. He also did the National Lampoon's Vacation as well. And
Oh, I
that
didn't like
first
it.
movie was quite surprising back then. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, this film it's a good comedy. It is a travel movie, but what makes this film is the two lead actors and the way they just bounce off each other and wind each other up, and it's them. If they weren't in the roles, if it was somebody else, I don't think it would be as good. But I think it's because it's these two actors, eh?
It wouldn't work. I think.
No, it wouldn't work. No. It's because of the chemistry they have on screen.
Yeah,
I don't know whether they liked each other or not off screen, but the chemistry.
I said they defined the movie.
Yeah, they define the movie exactly. There's a lot of very, very cartoony moments in this film as well, which we will get on to favourite moments in a minute. Actually, let's go to favourite moments now. Actually, let's go Stephen Price for favourite moments.
My favourite moments were they travelling down the highway and somebody shouting in the car opposite, "You're going the wrong way," and all this and that. Oh, he's drunk and all this and that.
Yeah, they think he's mad, yeah.
They just carried on. And you see these two big bloody trucks coming towards them. And and Steve Martin turns around and he sees John Candy as the devil.
But you see him as a skeleton as well.
Yeah. Other parts is he's laying on top of him in the bed and he kisses his ear and he says something. Did you feel a pillow or something. He both just scream out of the bed. The part that made me laugh in the movie was when he's at the airport and he's asking her, that girl she's on the phone talking to somebody, and you can see he's really pissed off about it, and he said, I want an effing car and all this and that. That was hilarious. And the shower scene and all, where he can't find a towel. Yeah.
Is that it? Is that all your favourite moments?
Yeah. It's probably more, but I'll have
You'll
to.
remember them as we go on. We've still got about, 2 hours left?
What?
And that all depends if how much Alex has to say. Let's go to Brian. I'm only joking, Alex. I'd say about an hour and 50 minutes. Favorite moments, Brian, if you've got any, unless you really hated this movie. Really,
I hate this movie. This is.
I thought so. You didn't really watch it, did you?
No, I love. No, this. I told you before. I love this movie. This is classic. I think my first and best moment I love is the what is it? Where the scene from where Steve Martin's character is dropping like the F-bomb like every second, like within the scene with, so he could, like, because he wants a new car and everything. I think that I found that hilarious, and I thought that is the best scene within, I find, within the movie. Second favorite scene I would be the is from when they're going the wrong way on the opposite side of the road and they almost hit the trucks. It's not until like seconds before they actually realize they're on the opposite side of the road and they almost hit the damn trucks.
I love it when they go, how do they know we're going the wrong way? They don't know what direction we're going.
They're morons.
Yeah.
And lastly, I think it'll be my final favorite moment is the ending, because you actually get to find out the reason why John Candy is the way he is in the movie and why he wants to stick around Steve Martin's character. Because, like Susan says, he's just a businessman that has nowhere else to be on for the holidays, and he wants to be around company and just to have somebody, even if it's a total stranger. And so I think that is just a wonderful scene to have in a movie like this, because it's always important to have someone, especially for the holidays, or even on any day in general, whether it be a friend, a family member, and it's not really good to be alone. So I think that's a beautiful and wonderful scene.
This is going deep, Brian. This is going a bit deep here. Thought about this.
What have you done with the real Brian?
Yeah.
I'm right here, Lee. No, but I think that's the reason why I just love that scene. It's just a beautiful little moment. So
Because you wouldn't like to be on your own, would you? On
No.
Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Or any particular holiday,
No.
But yeah, I just love those scenes. Anyone else here?
Is there anyone else here? Never mind, Brian. Let's go to Alex and Susan. Why is he suddenly asking if anybody else is here?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Is this thing on?
Is anyone else here?
Is this
I
thing
can tell you
on?
what, there's no one watching, but
Is this thing on? Go ahead.
Can you see us, Brian?
You got the mic.
Yeah, I like the beginning. I like the. It's very ironic how John Candy didn't kill Steve Martin in that scene in the movie. The car rental scene is famous also because the woman behind the counter was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And as I said, the dialogue is very famous in this movie. I love the mess around scene because you gotta love Ray Charles. It is funny when they finally get confronted by the state trooper, and he finally tells them, you can't drive this thing. I mean, the thing was a burnt out box just because John Candy forgot that he put a cigarette in the seat accidentally. He thought he threw it out the window, but he didn't. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty bad when they almost got, they should have been killed by hitting those two trucks. They probably wouldn't have survived. But again, it's a movie too. I mean, you got to have a little bit of license. And as far as I remember reading, it wasn't supposed to be that sweet of an ending, but that's okay. I mean, it's a John Hughes movie. He doesn't want to bum everybody out. So, I mean, his movies did sort of have a happy ending for the most part. It is also funny how you have Kevin Bacon in this movie so that you can play the American game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. You have the Brat Pack in the other movies, and a young Robert Downey Jr., who we all know now as Iron Man. So it's pretty funny how he had so many famous people. And of course, John Candy was a good actor as well. And as we just mentioned, he did also write the National Lampoon's Vacation, most of them. He wrote the series, and he gets credit for the characters, even in the prequel from 3 years ago where Rusty was all grown up with his own family. So yeah, those are basically the scenes that I like. Like I said, it's not a great movie. I'd rather be watching the other movies, some of them. But he did do a lot of good stuff. He was famous. He didn't have a bad reputation for the most part. Like I said, he died of a heart attack in 2009, the writer and producer. It was kind of funny. The other famous people that were in the movie that were also in Barney Miller and other famous TV shows years before, and watch for the scene at the end of the movie for the character that I just mentioned looking at the art, I guess he was. But yeah, it's like I said, he was an interesting filmmaker, and he did a lot of groundbreaking things even for the 80s.
Okay, I guess my favorite scene was when this is one of my little comments that I make to Alex all the time is, "Oh my God, I can't believe he hit a building! Oh my God!" Because it seems like in the news these days in Massachusetts and in the news these days when I lived in California and in the news these days, a lot of places, people don't know how to drive anymore and they run into buildings. And they run into buildings. This man with MS just hit 2 people and killed them and went to court, and they determined that he was worthy to stand trial, and he was convicted of manslaughter. It's amazing, It's like people, these guys are driving a burnout husk of a vehicle, and they just spent a terrible night in bed where John Candy was smoking and snoring, and Steve Martin just wanted to get a good night's sleep. And then they go out of the hotel room, and they put the car in reverse, but they thought it was drive, and he backs right into. He's trying to do the whole rocking thing and getting it out of the snowdrift, but unfortunately ran right into the hotel room that they just stayed in. Not only, it was just a little messy, but then it was completely demolished. And then he pulls away in a big hurry, and that's when they end up pulled over by the officer. Anyway, that was just it was hysterical. And the other one of my favorite scenes is when Steve Martin is on the train at the end, and he is like, thinking about all. First of all, he's once again going through all the reasons that he's going home. He's thinking about all these things, and then he's like remembering, and he remembers John Candy's whole his whole thing, like he didn't have a place to go, and he was talking about his wife, and that he hadn't seen her for more than a few years, and so he's like, he jumps off the train, gets on the train going back, and then finds him in the train station waiting for the L, so, ostensibly, but no, he was just sitting there because he didn't have a home. Anyway, that was another heartwarming, scene. And that's the deal with John Hughes films, is like you get these, biting humor, like terrible, uncomfortable humor, and then you have these scenes of heartwarming, emotionally rich sort of stuff, and it's a slice of life. It's great. Anyway, so those are my favorite scenes.
Let's go on over to Lee.
I'm sorry we're keeping you up, Alan. I've not just the morning.
That's the effect you have on people, Lee.
Oh, I wasn't talking at the time.
At least he's not snoring.
Well,
or smoking.
Yeah, well, I don't smoke.
well, this is based on a true story.
Is it?
Yeah, this is all based on John Hughes' experience.
God, that must have been a bad day, I tell you.
Right, yeah, and well, he's sort of elaborated on everything, but it's based on events, what happened to him personally when he was trying to get home one year on Thanksgiving. But I mean, I'm not going to go through all the same things as everybody else has said. But yes, the car scene from beginning to end is just marvelous. The Kevin Bacon bit at the beginning with the taxi, the run off with the taxi. Funnily enough, Steve Martin's wife in the film was laid in bed watching TV, and on the TV, a clip was playing from the film She's Having a Baby, which starred Kevin Bacon. So a bit of a surreal thing there. Yeah, I've enjoyed it from beginning to end. The scene where he gets up in the morning, he's washing his face in this bathroom sink, he picks up the underwear. He's been washing it with the underwear, then he shouts, "Can you take my dirty socks out the sink?" Things like that. Also, as Susan mentioned, the scene at the end where Steve Martin's on the train just thinking, and there's clips of what has happened during the film. Apparently, those clips of Steve Martin just sat there on the train was just filmed Steve Martin on downtime. He wasn't acting or anything. He was just messing around on the train. And John Hughes sort of put that and edited this into the movie and edited that just to make that scene up, and it just comes across wonderfully. So yeah, John Hughes was a brilliant director, producer, writer. There's many movies in the 80s what he did, which are one of my, are most of my favourite movies. This, as I say, is one of them. Yeah, you do feel sorry. I get where Susan's coming from. You do feel a bit and a bit cringe-worthy, this, that, and the swearing scene, the 18 expletives. Yeah, you do think but in the right context, it does work. But yeah, it's a buddy movie. It doesn't start off as a buddy movie because he absolutely hates John Candy, but by the end of it, the best of friends. They can't go anywhere without each other, and that it makes you feel good by the end of it. And that's
called character development. They've grown together. They started off not liking each other, and then at the end they like each other.
Yeah, and that's a well-written, well-directed, well-produced, well-acted movie, in my opinion. And if you feel like that at the end of the movie, it's worked.
But it plays out. It plays out naturally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't feel forced, like they're forced to be friends at the end.
No.
They just become. They could easily not see each other again and hate each other still.
I mean, it's like when there was on the train and the train broke down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's John Candy there dragging his great big case, and Steve Martin's character finally gives in the end and goes over there and lifts the other side of the case and helps him along the field. You could see by then they were gelling.
It naturally progresses.
Yeah,
and naturally.
And that's the good thing about this movie and other John Hughes movie, because in most of them, this is the sort of thing he does for the viewers. You're watching a movie, and by the end of it, you're thinking, "Wow, what a brilliant experience I've just sat through." And this is one of them. Over to you, Alec.
Thank you, Lee. But yeah, I mean, the best scene in the film is the car scene. You're going the wrong way. And they're going, and the truck's coming towards them, and that is the best scene. However, the scene that Alex mentions about the song Mess Around is totally spoilt for me thanks to an advert that I used to see in the UK. And was it about Pampers or something? Something to do with children anyway. And it played that song, and that advert was played so many times with that song that when it started playing in the film, it literally annoyed me. I just can't bear listening to that song because it takes me right back to that advert. And it is a god-awful, these adverts where they have, really popular music in them and they just spoil them. It's been done many times, and it just every time it ruins it. But the scene with the reversing, when they reverse back into the hotel, that was funny because he's meant to go forward and he goes back and crashes into the wall. The swearing scene people have mentioned, yeah, I can see where people are coming from, but in context, like Lee says, it's people are like that. People act, and it's actually making fun of them in a way. It's actually highlighting that because a lot of people are like that. If you work in retail or you work where you have to deal with customers, you get people like that. You really do, where they just swear at you and everything's your fault and things like that. The other scene that was funny, as Stephen mentioned, was the bed scene as well. When they wake up and, he's on top of him and they're holding hands and things like that. So, yeah, it's a good film. Let's go to final say and score. Let's go to Alex and Susan.
All right. Well, I enjoy this movie. I used to watch it frequently because it was one of those ones that on VHS that would prepare for the Thanksgiving holiday, and also anytime I felt like being really uncomfortable by comedy, I'd pop it in. Anymore. I'm just glad that we got a chance to review it here on Geeks Assemble. I'll give it a 9.
Um, yeah, I mean, again, it's a travel movie. Most of us can relate when we're, traveling out of town and they have, taxis being stolen and cash being stolen, and
Oh my god.
you have to share a room with somebody, and all these travels, and then the car, the rent a car they get is, torched, and all these, disasters. But I mean, that's part of what makes it relatable as well, is that you can see that, and the dialogue is good, and some of the songs are good, like the mess around and all that. Like I said, it's not one of my favorites. I'll give it an 8 just because of the effort of John Candy and Steve Martin. I mean, without them, this movie just would have been a bunch of scenes strung together. It wouldn't have been as good. But like I said, that being said, I'd rather watch Breakfast Club, Weird Science, the original Home Alone, even though that is very cartoon violency, but it has John Pesci in it as well, Joe Pesci. So yeah, he knew a lot of famous actors and people, and that was the other thing that made his movie so popular, is that he was trying to also put some Americana in it as well. It wasn't just a flashy movie or a flashy montage or 6 sequels to everything, and I think that was part of.
All of his movies are different.
Well, except for the Home Alone. The Home Alone did have a lot of sequels, but to give credit, and so did the National Lampoons, but the Vacation, but they weren't all written by him. So we have to give credit that he wasn't responsible for the whole series, but he was responsible for the screenplay, and apparently he was very good at that. He could write, 2 or 3 movies sometimes in a weekend, which, can we do that? Can we write, 2 or 3 movies in a weekend, or 10 movies in a week? I don't think so.
6 months to write 25 pages.
Well, yeah, the rest of us. But I mean, that's why he was there. And as I said, Ferris Bueller's Day. I mean, he's made so many movies that so many other people have tried to imitate. He's made so many movies that other people have tried to have even half of the characters, be like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I've known plenty of John Hughes fans that love the Breakfast Club has been imitated to death. I mean, it's in cartoons. He's inspired tons of people to imitate him, but they haven't been able to equal him. So, but like I said, it's not one of my favorites, but I'll give it an 8. Great acting. But like I said, yeah, we probably should have done more of a John Hughes tribute thing. But I think he did about 12 movies, maybe even more, maybe more than that.
This is a good one.
So we've got a 9, we've got an 8. Are we going to continue going downwards, Stephen? What are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it a 10. I thought it was brilliant. And Alex, don't mention that film, Home Alone. That's a horrible film.
I love that film.
Oh, I hate that movie. I hate the kid in it.
Well, you'll be looking forward to us reviewing it.
But
we'll be reviewing number 2.
No.
Yeah, but he came up with the idea. He wrote the screenplay.
No.
How can you not like Home Alone? What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with me? I can't stand a kid in it. Don't like the actor.
There's something seriously wrong with you.
Right, Brian, right. Home Alone is crap. How are you?
You're crap.
Right, I'm leaving you a group, and right, you've had it now, Brian.
Come on, Stephen.
No.
All I'm saying is you need to give Home Alone a chance.
It's on every bloody year, yeah, all the time.
Yeah, but that means it's good.
Yeah, that's crap.
It's on because it's good.
Watch the first 3 movies and skip the other 2.
Watch the other 2.
I watched Home Alone.
Then
Terrible.
you'll appreciate the first one.
About John Candy, I first seen him in the Blues Brothers. He was played a cop, not for very long. Yeah, this movie was hilarious. It's a solid 10 for me.
Solid 10. Let's go to Brian.
Well, that was quick. Okay. I would probably give this film a 10 out of 10 for this movie. It's such a absolutely phenomenal classic film for its time, and John Hughes did amazing with all his films. So it deserves a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 shower hooks.
Yes.
Yes. There you go. You were trying to think then, weren't you, what to say at the end of 10 out of 10. You were trying to think, weren't you? Let's go to Lee.
I would just like to point out to Stephen Price that Home Alone is on every year at this usually in December because it's a Christmas movie.
Can I just say it is actually on the rest of the year as well. I've seen it on in April and May. It is showing about 3 or 4 times during the year.
Are you on the Christmas channel?
That's only 2 months of the year, isn't it?
Well, yeah, only 2.
Well, sorry, we'll have to ring Sammy.
Also, a little info about this movie as well is when the film was filming this, they were actually using trains, planes, and automobiles to get to the locations because they were chasing the snow. Every time they went to a arranged place to film a scene, there was no snow about, so they had to go somewhere else in the country where there was snow. So that was.
So you just CGI it now, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But back in them days, we're jumping on planes going across the country. Oh, there's some snow. We'll film there because they didn't have anywhere they were supposed to be. But for me, it's an enjoyable movie. It's a John Hughes movie. Steve Martin, John Candy, brilliant team up. Great from beginning to end. It's a solid, gold-plated 10.
Wow, really? I am surprised, actually. Yeah. I mean, it's a great film, but I don't think it's a 10. I'm surprised how many people have given it a 10. Lee, Brian, and Stephen. I'm surprised about that. I think it's a good film. Alex brought up something that I thought was a good point, which was that it is relatable because we've all had crap journeys from somewhere, haven't we? Where something's going wrong, you've lost something or, the car breaks down or whatever. I mean, we've all had those nightmare journeys at some point. I know I've definitely had a few. So yeah, it's relatable. But when I compare it to like Home Alone, I just like Home Alone more. I'm sorry. I just think Home Alone's a 10 out of 10. And this is not Home Alone. And I think I'm going to give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7 because I do agree with Alex. If you removed the 2 main characters, the actors playing them, it wouldn't be as funny. In my opinion, I think it's their chemistry that makes it believable. You believe in their friendship. You believe that they don't like each other at first, and then you believe in their friendship at the end, partly to do with the writing, but I think actually more to do with the performances because they just play it so well. I'm going to give it a 7. I think a 7's a fair score. I'd like to thank everybody here for joining me. I'd like to thank you for watching. Tell us below what you made of Planes, Trains and Automobiles. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this if you want to subject yourself to more weekly torture. Look after yourself, take care, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.